Glad to have you back. Now let's start the next discussion. The House of Representatives has mandated the Central Bank of Nigeria to report to the House and explain how the salary bailout funds to Kogi State were utilized.
Now, this is coming as the House notes the alleged suicide committed by a director in the Kogi State Civil Service Commission. Lawmakers say there is need to query the disbursement of the salary bailout, which is funded by the public finances of the federal government.
Some parents are working in state government agencies, wife and mother, sometimes even their children, and you're owing them several months of salary, and you still want them to live. How would they live?
Payment of salaries of state and local government, especially civil servants in Kogi State. Nonetheless, the receipts of salary bailout funds, Paris Club funds, and monthly federal allocations to states. The House notes further that sadly, a director in the ministry in the Kogi Civil Service Commission by name Edward Soje, the senior civil servant was said to have been owed 11 months' salary. The director was reported to have committed suicide owing to the fact that he could not meet his obligations as a husband, especially when his wife had just delivered triplets at Abuja Hospital last week.
Some parents are working in state government agencies, wife and mother, sometimes even their children, and you're owing them several months of salary, and you still want them to live. How would they live?
That's the sad reality in Kogi State, where people have to take their lives.
Yes, indeed. What has happened with Edward Soje seems to be a metaphor for what's happening with workers in Nigeria.
Especially civil servants.
Especially.
Still being paid 18,000 naira minimum wage. Well, we have with us in the studio Vice President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Amechi Asuguni. Good morning to you, and thank you for joining us at this time. Morning. Now, first off, why did it even take NLC this long to be talking about the plight of civil servants in Kogi State?
We continue to lament in the cases of inability of those in authority. Unfortunately, the responsibility of NLC differs from the function of governors. You know, obligation to pay salary is not negotiable. Salary is not at the discretion of any government. Salary is paid for work done. It's a legitimate entitlement to workers. And people can now see the weakness behind those in authority. NSC as an institution actually represent the workforce in managing welfare and ensuring that they are protected. Fortunately, government also that have abandoned their responsibility, such as a serious case of a salary, is something that calls for the attention of the entire country, because the issue of Kogi State, we have listened to the governor in several occasions, and going left, right, the summary is his own salary. Until today, he can't do any meaningful thing to settle those debts. Despite
bailout funds.
Yeah, so for us, it's a matter that requires national attention. And NSC, we are doing our best in ensuring. You don't forget, it's not just about action, it's about the reality. You know, most of this is better fun and seen this way. So Nigerians themselves will think proper, because beyond governance is beyond promises. And now we're talking about, you know, the recession was also okay to test run the abilities of certain states in terms of generating revenue for themselves. So you don't depend on people to borrow you money to settle debt.
Well, even without, long before the recession, the states, the question of state viability was still very much a debate. But so much seems to be going on in Kogi State. It's not just the backlog of salaries and pensions that have not been paid. You have the political gladiators, the governor Yahya Bello against Dino Melaye, the senator representing Kogi West. You know, they were friends before, and now all of a sudden things turned awry for the two of them. Okay, now, Kogi State has been explaining that in the case of Edward Soje, who unfortunately, the director of civil servant that committed suicide, that he was not owed 11 months, that he was owed 9 months' salary. And you wonder, what's the difference between 9 months and 11 months? That somebody is even owed 1 month is bad enough.
The laborer deserves his wage.
Absolutely. So now, the National Assembly seems to have a lot on its plate, investigating this and that and here and there.
Yeah.
What outcome are you expecting from these investigations, not only in the death or suicide of Edward Soje, but the non-payment of salaries and pensions?
I think they have little to investigate. The truth is just there. The salaries are being owned in, the accumulation is high. And take it, let's assume the 9,000 to be the fact. How can a worker...
9 months salary.
9 months.
9 months salary.
9 months salary as a benchmark, like he claimed to owe the late comrade 9 months salary. And then where on earth can a worker succeed, survive with your family, where you are not being paid for 9 months, and government try to fast-track the policy of no work, no pay, because workers went on strike. Whereas there is no work. You know, when you say no work, no pay, then you should also know that if there's no pay, no work. That principle should also employ. So you see workers already work for free. A worker that is owed 9 months salary is like, he has no hope. He has lost hope of expectation that at the end of the month, families should expect something. They pay school fees. They pay house rent. So landlord won't hear that because he didn't build the house for you.
Put that in perspective.
So eventually, it has lost its value. The essence of working is to ensure that at least the basic needs of a family is taken care of.
Indeed.
In this case, for one to have considered suicide as an option, then it means that the heart of workers in Kogi, there is danger because for one to go this way, you may not know the queue that will go behind it. So for us, it's beyond the state strike. NSC is planning a national, strong protest against the state.
Okay.
And by the grace of God, if nothing is done, such action will be rolled out. Because if you don't do that, others will not also take a very good cue on their responsibility.
But we need to say at this point that suicide is never the best option, really, because you leave your family and, of course, all those dependent on you in dire situations.
Especially in the case of this gentleman who has his wife just put to bed, you know, triplets, 3 boys, and you wonder what's going to happen to them.
It's not an option, but where it has happened, you can't help it. The question is frustration leads people to take foolish decisions. And when they do so, they become victims.
Okay, so
we're
let's
discussing on his behalf now.
Yes, let's look at the mannerism and, of course, the disposition of the governor to all this. Many have said that it's not that he doesn't even have the money. That it seems like he doesn't even want to pay them. I recall just days or weeks ago he said that those that have not been paid are politicians, describing civil servants as politicians. And they just came out to say that we are not. We even supported you and we are just civil servants. And for a leader that is supposed to be the father of all in the state to be talking like that, what does that even interpret to you as a Labour person?
You know, one thing we have taken note about him as well is when someone is also frustrated, you cannot help his own speech. Because the way, the manner and the position of the governor now, he is already facing a public mess. For you to have owned up that you can consider 9 months but not 12, that already tells the world, not Nigeria, that something is happening with regards to governance obligation.
But what do you make of the so-called staff verification, which is what they are saying, you know, happened along the line why they stopped Edward Soje's salary from being paid? That he falsified his age. On the other hand, we've heard claims that there was no such thing. Even his brother has come out to say no, he was born on the date he said he was born, and all of that. So what do you make of this staff verification, which is what they're trying to say?
Staff verification is a deliberate political strategy to still further delay worker salary. You see, whatever you employ to do in the essence of justifying those that work in the state, it cannot also amount to denials of salary. That you want to verify, you can do your screening, but no one is guilty until one is found. So your verification is that shouldn't stop salary. You can't use that as a yardstick to stop salary. And that is a strategy that has made some workers now own 21 months. So if a worker has not been paid salary and up to today you are doing verification, at the end of it, if he's not owed, if he is not guilty of any of this, how will you calculate the arrears of his benefit? The interest that is on those salaries. They are trying. No, some of these advices, they thought they are smart, and then they give this dubious advice to the governor that you can engage this with this. They will tell them you are waiting for a result of screening. Which portion of constitution is he implementing to do screening of already working people? People that were already screened and they were employed. And then all of a sudden, halfway, you begin a second screening. And
there is the talk of even 50%.
So if you are doing a second screening for your own good, then you should proceed. Consider salary as their entitlement. Then by the time one is found guilty, you charge him to court.
But ghost workers are a major problem in the civil service in Nigeria. Apart from the fact that the civil service has been seen as the real engine that is clogging the wheel of progress in governance in Nigeria. How do we now solve the problem of ghost workers, which is what the Kogi State government is saying is the reason why we have to do this verification?
Verification exercise is applauded. We are saying go ahead. Every state, not only Kogi, some other states are already doing the exercise of trying to actualize who are these workers. If I'm owing certain billions, certain amount of money as salary, how much is being owed to workers, the real workers? You have 10,000 workers. Are they truly all workers? So in the case of Kogi, it's not the first. We have other states that are undergoing screening exercise. But none has given excuse with the fact that screening exercise is now the basis to deny workers entitlement. So we are not against the screening exercise, because even the ghost workers or ghost working principle or scheme is illegal. It's something we should resist, because it's also denying the real working people opportunities. Now, the essence of the delay of salary across Nigeria today could also be because of the names that don't exist in person. You know, you bring names and they know how to manipulate and get the salary off the system on a monthly basis, and they affect the real working people.
And
so
it's
we are
someone
saying
in the
that
system.
whatever they do, the exercise should not violate the right of workers.
Okay, let's look at the efforts of the national lawmakers now in trying to help the people of Kogi, workers of Kogi State, by donating rice to them. National lawmakers sending rice over,
which caused some controversy.
Exactly. I don't want to be the one to say it.
Well,
what it feels about it as a Labour person.
You know, most of these things look funny. It look funny. It also represents the reality. The question is, does the workers need help or not? Whether they contributed rice or tomato. The question is, these workers, are they truly Nigerians? And if they are, a worker without salary for 9 months or 12 months. I don't want to point at 20 months, because they will tell you there is only few. But who are these few? Are they few human beings that will be owed salary for 20 months? And then you tell me that contribution of bag of rice will cushion the effect of such challenge? It can't. They are only trying to express the reality on ground in Kogi. The essence of contribution of rice is not to solve the problem of food for those families. It's just a kind of...
More like a symbolic gesture?
More or less like trying to open a base that there is a problem in this state, such that they cannot even afford food, talk more of medical and other challenges. Because we are talking about people that have right to certain amenities. If government cannot provide, this is a country where workers provide water for themselves, workers provide lights for themselves, workers provide road. In most cases, you need to repair your road.
Otherwise, the same problem across
Nigeria. So these are workers that they expected to use their salary to make use of this, including their medical for their children. So, but unfortunately, they are faced with this.
One wonders why the presidency is somehow silent on all of this, the plight of civil servants in Nigeria, especially those in Kogi State, because it is happening almost on a daily basis.
Well, don't forget President Buhari only recently wondered how any governor would go to bed
without paying salaries.
No, for NSC, if it's about response to the response of Mr. President towards the non-payment of salary, he has frowned about that. He frowns on
about that of Kogi, especially because when he came back, the governor was so happy that in fact he declared a public holiday to celebrate the president's return. So many are saying that it's like the godson of the president. Maybe that is why he's not talking specifically on the issue of Kogi State.
Maybe I don't want to talk on president matter, because if we use salary to more or less qualify some of his response to be all right, what about other issues? What about the Nigerian economy today? What are we doing? What is working in Nigeria as we talk? So we don't want to be using issues of comment, because Nigerians, they are good in talking. Even though president has said anything, has he changed the situation? And so the question is not about statement of Mr. President. What is being done now to solve the Kogi workers' challenge?
So now the Kogi workers' problem, in your own words, the Kogi workers' challenge may not necessarily be the real issue. There are more underlying factors here, because it's not only Kogi that's owing salaries. So many other states, some are paying 50% of salaries and all of that. How do we solve the fundamental problem of, you know, this vicious cycle of non-payment of salaries?
Yes.
Who was it recently? The former governor of Central Bank, Sanusi, the emir of Kano, you know, said recently that over-bloated government at all levels is a real problem. He says, look, there's a need for us to trim government so that funds can be freed to tackle education, to provide health care.
Federal, state, and
at all the levels.
You know, government, the governance is not through speech. Governance is by action. Now, the problem you analyze is caused by governance. Where you lack good governance, issues like this must remain as challenge for the country. Why are we having non-payment of salary almost all the state? Because of the system of government in Nigeria allows for, you know, when people depend on oil and then they say more economy, and that is how they make proud that they have no other source of income. And then this source now has been affected drastically, such that without oil, no money. So people that must pay salary are those that will think of the boss. Those people that will say, without oil, my state can function. So we need a healthy competition of knowledge among governors to say that we may not even need oil to pay salary. Salary is a priority, because for you to move the state forward, you need the people. Who are the people? The workers of the state. If you cannot afford salary, you cannot afford development.
What do they do at the Nigerian Governors Forum? If, I mean, that's supposed to be some kind of peer, you know, mechanism, peer review mechanism that they all table, you know, put it on the table and say, look, these are the problems we have. How are you solving your problem? Jigawa, for example, you're one of the poorest states in the country, and yet you're not owing salaries.
That is what I call priority. Some states have already realized that you can't see when you owe salary. Salary is, like we said earlier, legitimate obligation. You don't trade them. You can't campaign for project. You don't begin to construct road, and you are owing people that you are going to mobilize to do the road. Because the state must provide platform for any contractor to come and lay foundation. So the question now is that the inability of state to pay salary has already given a faulty foundation to their own campaign promises. Most of the state, unless Nigeria will continue to sleep, most of the governors, they have already laid their card out. They won't come back. The same people that have voted you into power, you cannot tell somebody at home that I would do better for you than the one working for me.
Talking about
no, you can't deceive Nigerians.
Talking about campaign promises and then eventually getting to power, somehow, does it seem to you that what is playing out might be the way the governor of Kogi State even got to power in the first place that is causing all this row there?
No, how he got to power is almost familiar with how other ones got to power. You know, system of Nigeria, they believe they take advantage of the massive ignorance. You know, the ignorance that they see is during the election. People don't know that they are voting for their future. They don't know that governance of Nigeria is about their own children.
Yeah, but the emergence of Yahaya Bello seems to be a peculiar case to Kogi State, for example, who, if in setting up the Peace and Reconciliation Committee by John Oyegun, the chairman of the APC, he did own up to the fact that, you know, Yahya Bello gained or benefited from the hard work of others.
Late Audogbe.
Yeah, the late Audogbe and you
Of
know,
course,
others.
no, you can't take it out. You can't take it out because most
Is
of
there
them...
a link? Is there a link between his emergence, the way he emerged, and what is going on now?
He may be the one to answer that question because we are looking at his own ability. Ability of a man, irrespective of how you come in. A qualified governor will certainly assume office with the full knowledge of what he must do. And any governor that have a plan, what suffered Nigerian economy today? When Mr. President came into power 6 months without a minister. That already tells Nigerians that it looks the future is not bright. The same thing is happening to governors. They come into power to celebrate Thanksgiving without a vision. So you see people who emerge as governors without plan. And there's nothing you expect more than you are seeing today.
Thanksgiving without a vision. That should be written in stone. Okay, now, so what is the way forward for a state like Kogi State? How do we come out of this rot?
The Kogi State agitation must continue. You know, people like that, it doesn't matter how they employ strategy. The constant strategy that Labour must employ is to ensure that any bad governor is exposed to the open.
All right, quickly, your NSC is planning to clamp down on Kogi State. When? What date?
I think we're having our next meeting by 2nd week of November.
All right.
And from there, a decision will be taken.
Okay.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Amechi Asuwuni, Vice President, Nigeria Labour Congress, looking at the Kogi State challenge with us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
God bless.